We are live.
Hello, YouTube viewers and listeners and whatever. I'm trying to turn my phone off. Am I getting it? Andy is not here this week, but the lovely Maren Johns is sitting right next to me.
Imported from Australia.
Yes.
We have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Hi, I'm Ann Northrup.
And I'm Maren Johns.
And this is Gay USA. Welcome. Andy is off this week. He'll be back next week. Maren will still be here. I'll be gone. We're playing musical chairs. And we have a ton of news, of course. But yes. I have to note, just as we're in the horror of our current situation, that this is the 46th anniversary of the assassination of Harvey Milk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
46.
on the day we're taping,
Wow.
1978. It seems in some ways like yesterday. It's hard to imagine it was 46 years ago. But it was, and ignited, of course, a revolution on the streets of San Francisco of anger. I'd like to see some of that same revolution right now.
Yeah, it was I feel like the second Stonewall, wasn't it? But much more directly political. Well, we see if we can muster some of that,
We'll try to make you angry enough tonight to do some of that. So in tonight's news...
Well, we've seen that Trump wants to nominate out gay man for the Secretary of the Treasury position, Scott Bessent.
Scott Bessent.
But the mainstream media isn't saying much about this.
No, it's shocking. We will discuss that. And of course, he's nominating lots of monsters to other powerful positions, and we'll go through some of those.
And the president-elect is rumored to be planning a first-day executive order banning all trans service members, current and future, from the U.S. military.
Wow. Hold on to your seats. That's 15,000 plus of people who shouldn't be fired for no good reason. Meanwhile, Congresswoman Nancy Mace of South Carolina has decided she is just going to torture out trans Sarah McBride, the new Congresswoman from Delaware, and she is shameless about it.
And the Supreme Court is going to hear a crucial case about care for trans youth next week.
Jussie Smollett has finally had his actual conviction overturned. It's a very interesting case, and we'll give you some details on that.
Yes, and World AIDS Day is, of course, December the 1st. That's this Sunday. We'll tell you a little bit more about how to get involved.
We'll tell you about several community heroes who died in the last week or two. One of them is a revolutionary Los Angeles drag performer, Sir Lady Java.
Yes, fascinating. And the sort of gayish movie Wicked has opened historically actually a huge box office success.
Yeah, I think gayish may be playing it. It seems to be they're not shy about talking about Wicked as gay. They're just shy about talking about Scott Bessent as gay.
Right.
What kind of world are we living in? Maren has seen Daniel Craig in the movie Queer and will tell us about it.
Yep.
And Cola Scola's Oh Mary, our favorite Broadway production, is officially the biggest hit on the Great White Way right now.
Yes.
All right, so let's dig into it. Well, of course, the big news for us was this guy, Scott Bessent, who is very well known to Wall Streeters, but not so much to us plebeians, is nominated by Trump to be the Secretary of the Treasury.
Yep. Married, gay, 2 kids.
Yeah.
Husband's John Freeman. Why, Anne, do you think Trump is so keen on Bessent?
Well, first of all, because he wants to be in good with Wall Street, and Bessent has a great reputation as being more of the normal variety. But Bessent's been cozying up to Trump for the last year or two. But it's an interesting case because Bessent used to be a Democratic donor and close to Democrats.
Right.
He worked for George Soros, who is like he's Satan to the right.
Republicans.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was his investment advisor for years. Then he started his own hedge fund. He went back and worked for Soros some more. And now, and there was a big fight about who was going to be nominated as Treasury Secretary, him or Howard Lutnick, who ended up at Commerce because he was a little too volatile for Trump. So Scott Bessent is the normalized anchor of the Trump cabinet. I mean, even more normal, I think, than Marco Rubio, who to me is not much to write home about.
The other aspect is he's I've heard that he's pro cryptocurrencies, and Trump has said he wants to look at all of this sort of murky.
Scares me to death.
It's sort of split. The financial community is split on the merit of cryptocurrencies, but he said he wants to turn the US into the crypto capital of the world.
Yikes.
So, yeah.
I'm glad I'm old. Oh, by the way, I'm wearing a shirt. I don't usually wear a shirt this light because I like to, disguise the body. But this is irresistible because it's from the Wild Turkey golf course.
Nice. We could talk about Biden pardoning the turkeys too.
Oh, well, let's not.
Well, what do we make of the fact that Scott Bessent is now going to be the highest ranking gay person so far in the White House?
In history.
Well, what do you make of it? And why aren't we talking about it? Nobody's really talking about it.
The New York Times breaking news. New York Times says breaking news for every appointment, usually about 3 hours behind when the rest of the world has heard about it, which is very annoying.
Very Times, yes.
Yes. We should call it Behind the Times.
Behind the Times,
yes. Well, they put out breaking news. Scott Bessent, Soros, crypto, blah, 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 and husband. They never name the husband. They never say gay. They just glide right over it. And report after report after report on mainstream media, TV, print, whatever, they may make a mention that he has a husband. They may even make a mention that he's gay, but there is no analysis of the fact that the Trump administration is so anti-trans, anti-LGBT. People would argue that, but I think we can make the case for that. And I mean, Pam Bondi is Attorney General. We'll get into that. And nothing, no news media saying, why is Trump nominating this out gay man as Treasury Secretary? Why isn't the right wing standing up and screaming about this? What is going on here? There is absolutely nothing from the mainstream media.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way I interpret it is it's part of the Trump strategy, this kind of slippage that you can't predict what he's going to do. I mean, it's like putting Susie Wiles in that job, which is historic also, to put a woman in that job.
Yes.
And especially the kind of woman she is. She's not one of the news anchor type, pretty girls that he's previously chosen.
Yes.
She looks like a woman that gets stuff done.
It's just when you're ready to call him the Chaos King and the monster who destroyed the country, he'll slip in someone like this who has a little more gravitas.
Right.
But I don't know why the mainstream media is letting him get away with this. This should absolutely be discussed in more depth, and they're just not going into it.
Yeah,
it's freaky.
Nobody let Pete Buttigieg off the hook. I remember the media all had to talk about him. So, and dig around into his family and his husband. And so I'd like to see the same treatment here.
So you're right. Bessent's husband is John Freeman, who's a former prosecutor in New York City. They live in Charleston, South Carolina, and spend some time restoring historic homes there. Although I think Scott will be doing less of that.
Yeah.
At any rate, so Scott Bessent evidently is going to slip through and be allowed by the crazy right wing to be the Treasury Secretary.
Look, the Rainbow Log Cabin people are probably applauding, and
Oh, believe me, they are. They are. And he got on the Trump tariff train a year or two ago. He saw how Trump was doing. He decided Trump was going to be successful. And so he sort of glided away from the Democrats and the Soros crowd into the Trump crowd. And he has been a supporter and a donor and supporting the whole tariff idea. Anyway, on the other hand, we have Pam Bondi,
Yes.
who has been the prosecutor in Florida, the Attorney General of Florida, and has been the DeSantis disciple who has been just cruel and mean to everybody. Very against, she supported Trump in election denial. Migrants are dangerous. And finally, she was a lobbyist for Qatar. She defended the Florida ban on same-sex marriage. She's a piece of work. And some years ago, when marriage was being debated still, a bunch of attorneys general from around the country put together a brief to go to the Supreme Court to say that same-sex marriage should be legal. And she was asked to join that suit, and she said no. And then she started making these excuses about, well, you know, the voters of Florida, they voted to ban it and put it in the Constitution, and my job as Attorney General is to support the Constitution. Nonsense. Attorneys General forever have. You can stand up and say, I don't believe this is constitutional. Just because they put it in the Constitution doesn't make it constitutional. Yeah. But that's her defense. So Anderson Cooper got her on CNN and was right around the Pulse massacre time and was cross-examining her.
I want to ask you, I saw you the other day saying that anyone who attacks the LGBT community, our LGBT community, you said, will be gone after with the full extent of the law.
Exactly right.
I talked to a lot of gay and lesbian people here yesterday who are not fans of yours and who said that they thought you were being a hypocrite, that you for years have fought, you've basically gone after gay people, said that in court that gay people, simply by fighting for marriage equality, were trying to do harm to the people of Florida, to induce public harm, I believe was the term you used in court. Do you really think you're a champion of the gay community?
Let me tell you, when I was sworn in as Attorney General, I put my hand on a Bible and was sworn to uphold the Constitution of the state of Florida. That's not a law. That was voted into our state constitution by the voters of Florida. That's what I was defending. Had nothing to do. I've never said I don't like gay people. That's ridiculous.
But do you worry about using language accusing gay people of trying to do harm to the people of Florida when doesn't that send a message to some people who might have bad ideas in mind?
Anderson, I don't believe gay people could do harm to the state of Florida.
But you argued that in court.
My lawyer argued a case defending what the Supreme Court allowed the voters to put in our state constitution.
But you were arguing that gay marriage, if there was gay marriage, if there was same-sex marriage, that would do harm to the people of Florida, since Florida society.
That it was constitutional to put that in the Constitution.
Are you saying you did not believe it would do harm to Florida?
Of course not. Of course not. Gay people. No, I've never said that. Those words have never come out of my mouth.
But that is specifically what you were arguing in court.
No.
Enough.
You see, so first of all, is she better than Matt Gaetz or worse?
Do we have to?
But it's like, which is worse? You know, how would you rather die? But the slippage worries me here. The slippage between the legal jargon and then what your average person living in Florida thinks of gay people as a threat, which is what Anderson was trying to get to there.
Well, I wish Anderson had said to her, just because the voters voted it into the Constitution doesn't mean it is right or that it adheres to federal constitutional principles. You can challenge that as unconstitutional. Yeah. And he didn't say that to her. That's what I would have said to her. But she clearly is talking.
It's not the 10 Commandments, but she has a tendency to talk about the Constitution of Florida as though it was the 10 Commandments.
She's also, she's one of these people who, in the face of school shootings, says we need more security in the school, more. Let's arm the teachers
with guns,
instead of getting rid of guns. All right. Well, at this rate, we're going to get through 3 stories.
All right, let's go.
Trump is also nominating Russ Vought, who's one of the chief people behind Project 2025, to run the Office of Management and Budget, as he did in his first administration. That's going to be a nightmare. And he's brought in other Project 2020, Stephen Miller, if I have to look at him for 4 years, I don't know, Ratcliffe at the CIA, Borden as the border czar, who is, I'm sorry, yes, Homa as the border czar.
Yeah.
Someone at the FCC, Hextra as the ambassador to Canada. Anyway, it's just going to be a nightmare for 4 years. And this thing about the military, executive order.
15,000 of some of the most qualified people. So recent studies show that trans people are twice as likely to be willing to serve than the general population. And the US military is having trouble recruiting people at the moment. So again,
and Trump talks about the Democrats having destroyed the military. In his first term, Trump issued an order: no more trans people in the military. No more can enlist. Now he wants to get rid of all the people who are already there. Just, you're all out. I'm firing you all. Yeah. And it's just shameful. And I hope that we come up with a campaign that brings out all these trans people serving or veterans and puts them all over TV, which is what happened around Don't Ask, Don't Tell. We brought out LGBT people who were in the military or who had retired, who were very brave because they were really breaking the law then. There's no law at the moment against the trans people.
We'll get HRC to do it because we know they have the budget. So,
no, there are organizations specifically for LGBT service members. They're very good and very efficient, and they are right now drumming up people to
so
appear.
This move to me, this sounds to me like it's Trump is doing this as a dog whistle to the other strongman leaders around the world. So to Erdogan and Orban and Putin and Kim Jong-un. Basically, I think it's just him. It's a flex.
Tough guy.
Flex, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because he's throwing a lot of this stuff out, and what will come to fruition is, because all this stuff's going to be challenged in court too, so we may be able to delay him.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, up on the Hill, the assault continues with poor Sarah McBride, the out trans representative from Delaware, about to take office, with Nancy Mace just losing her mind over this. There's Sarah McBride with a statement she made about these attacks, saying, look, I'm here to legislate, not to talk about bathrooms. But meanwhile, Nancy Mace, has said, where I just had
this is the resurfaced interview that CNN found. Is that what you're looking
at?
No,
she appeared at, here it is. She appeared at Georgetown University and was protested by a trans person who interrupted her speech.
Yeah.
And Nancy Mace said that the protester was a raging lunatic, pretending to be female, and just screamed at her for a while, drove her out of the room. But Speaker Mike Johnson is backing up Nancy Mace and is passing rules saying that people in federal buildings, and Nancy Mace wants this nationwide in federal buildings, people must use the bathroom according to their born assigned gender.
Well, then what do we make of, so this is the thing about politicians being so two-faced. That resurfaced interview with CBS News in May last year, May said, I'm pro-transgender rights. I'm pro-LGBTQ. She said, be who you want to be, but don't make those permanent changes when it's a child. So she stopped short. I don't see
she got on the Trump train.
I don't see that Sarah is a child. I see a fully autonomous adult trying to do their job.
Of course. And Nancy Mace shouldn't be sticking her face in children's health decisions that should be between them and their family and their doctors and whomever. All of this government interference is just outrageous. So it's a terrible battle, and it's getting uglier by the minute. The governor of Ohio has just signed a bathroom bill that says students in everything from kindergarten through college may only use the bathrooms that fit their assigned sex at birth. I mean, I've said this over and over on this show. We're talking about human beings here, and you are just throwing them in the trash and telling them they can't go to the bathroom. Now, in Ohio, they say, we're making other accommodations.
Well, I'd like to see what suppose.
Well, they're never as available, they're never as frequent, and they're stigmatizing.
Would you call it a porta potty here, or is that just Australian
Well, that's
news?
one thing they could use, but I think what they're going to do
That's
is
what they were going to do.
they're going to have one
Pull it right.
bathroom on campus that the trans students are supposed to use, and there will be people lined up outside to yell at them.
Absolutely. It's like the scarlet tea.
Yeah,
let's
exactly.
just make people pariahs.
All
Where
right.
to next?
Oh, well, evidently MSNBC is losing viewers after the Trump win. I can't believe that.
But Elon Musk has threatened to buy MSNBC.
Yeah, well, that'd be interesting if they let him. But meanwhile, Rachel Maddow has taken a pay cut, so now she's only making $25 million. But people are fighting back, and Rise and Resist in New York. There's a lot of chatter about, oh, what went wrong? Who did this?
Right.
What are we going to do next? Blah, blah, blah. Well, Rise and Resist is going, which has been out in the streets for years against Trump, is holding a town hall meeting this Tuesday, right away, December 3rd, from 7 to 9 at the LGBT Center on West 13th Street to discuss the future. You know, where do we go from here? How do we fight back? And they're also having a gathering on Saturday, the 7th, in front of the New York Public Library at 1 p.m. To get people to promote Biden signing the Equal Rights Amendment, which has been lingering for decades, but which some claim has had enough votes in the states to pass. But the town hall on Tuesday, 7 to 9 p.m. at the center is the important thing. Mm-hmm. All right. Wait, let me just scan here for other people. There's trans people are debating Sarah McBride's reaction to Nancy Mace. You know, should she have been more direct about yelling at Nancy Mace? Should she have defended her use of the women's restroom? Because she said, I will follow the rules. You tell me where to go, I'll go. But divided opinions on that.
While we're on the trans topic, we wanted to mention that the court has upheld the Missouri ban on gender affirming care for minors. It's, of course, a state law, banning all gender affirming healthcare for minors and prohibiting Medicaid from covering transition-related care. This is
for adults.
For adults, that's pretty shocking, right?
Very shocking.
So this case was brought against the state by 3 trans teens and medical providers and 2 of our advocacy orgs. In a 74-page judgment, Justice Carter said he believes, quote, there is an almost total lack of consensus as to the medical ethics of adolescent gender dysphoria.
That doesn't mean you outlaw care. It means you continue to research and take care of people.
We're getting the laws are being made by unqualified people, though.
Yes.
Which is a real problem.
Yes. We've been following a bill that was in the House about authorizing the Treasury Department to declare nonprofit organizations terrorist supporting and taking away their tax exemptions. This is going to be very interesting with an out gay Treasury Secretary. Because, of course, it is the liberal nonprofits that the House wants to go after. That's why they're passing this. And they did pass it. It hasn't passed the Senate yet.
It's very Putin-esque. It's got a Putin-esque feel about it.
Oh, my God, it all does. And meanwhile, in the U.S. Senate, Chuck Schumer, the majority leader from New York, momentarily until the Republicans take over, is sort of screwing around with the confirmation of judges because he's got himself in a stymied position and he's had to bargain with the Republicans to allow him to pass some district court judges, but not appeals court judges, which are higher. And once again, Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema are on the side of, yes.
Not again, those two.
Well, they'll be gone soon.
They'll be gone soon, yes.
I don't know. So, in local politics, Richie Torres seems like he is running for governor, although he might run for mayor. Who cares? And there is the Moms for Liberty woman, Maud Moran, who was getting in the way of education in Manhattan, now says she wants to run against the Manhattan DA for his job. No.
I don't think she stands a chance.
No, neither do I. Check us on this, but no, I don't think so.
Yeah, check us on this.
All right. Should we go to sports?
we should. We wanted to mention the Supreme Court was going to hear U.S. versus Scrimeti, which is the case against Tennessee's ban on hormone therapy for trans youth. There's 3 families of the plaintiffs there.
Yeah, that's next week on Wednesday, and Chase Strangio will be the first out trans person to argue in front of the Supreme Court. This is about whether states are allowed to ban trans care for minors, and I can't be optimistic about that. I think we're really, and even Chase admits to being nervous about this.
Well, where you wanted to go to sports? All right.
Oh, wait, I suppose
Jussie
first
Smollett?
we should, yes. So Jussie Smollett was accused of setting up this phony attack on himself, claiming racial and homophobic violence and discrimination. And then they said, oh, no, he hired these guys to do it to him. Well, he reached an agreement with the DA in Chicago, a settlement that had him paying a fine and, I don't know, maybe doing some community service. Yes. And then a special prosecutor came in and said, oh, no, that's not enough. We're going to retry we're going to actually take him to court and retry it. He was convicted. He was sentenced to 5 months in jail. He only served a little bit of it 6 days before his appeal was accepted, and he was out. And they have finally settled this, and the judge has said, look, this is double jeopardy. You cannot, after you've reached an agreement with him, you can't go back and say we're going to prosecute him. So those charges have been dropped. He is now free and clear. The city of Chicago is still suing him for court costs. But he is finally free of those charges. And whether he did it or not, it didn't merit 5 months in jail, and it didn't merit a second prosecution.
It always felt like a mental health issue to me.
Well, who knows?
That
I don't know the real
look
answer.
into his emotional state at that time. Are we going to talk about what happened, the terrible incident in Club Pittsburgh?
Yeah, sure.
That was a bit shocking. So there's an LGBTQ bathhouse and club there that is very popular with the gay men. One man has been hospitalized. Another is he was actually in critical condition, but one is dead. A gunman stormed in at 2:15 in the morning on November the 22nd.
He had rented a room there, 55 years old, homeless guy. And
with his girlfriend.
Yes, and then he was sort of either drunk or hallucinating, thought his girlfriend was
in trouble, in danger.
Yes, and he pulls out this rifle he had concealed when he brought it in and started shooting up the place.
55-year-old alleged shooter William Samuels. Very strange.
Yeah. And then there's the lovely urologist in New York City, Dr. Darius Paduch, 57 years old, who's now received a life sentence for sexually abusing 7 male patients, 5 of them minors, and probably hundreds more who have accused him.
Over a 20-year period, 2003 to last year.
At New York Presbyterian Hospital, Weill Cornell, Northwell, Long Island. But a life sentence, oh my God.
Well, I mean, he's a serial offender, and
certainly
the minors. And imagine going to a doctor for help, and
terrible.
And he subjected them to unnecessary examinations and medical.
Did
procedures.
Larry Nassar get a life sentence?
Well, you think there might be some?
I don't know. I don't know.
I
should look into that before saying things like that. And then a flight attendant for United Airlines, Ruben Sanchez, 52, was fired because on a late night flight, he started chatting with a fellow attendant and saying, about their Catholicism and saying, I'm not down with all this LGBT stuff and all this woke stuff.
So United fired him.
Well, someone heard him and turned him in.
I think it's harsh. I mean, it's harsh. Flight attendants sit up the back and bitch all through the flight. You know it. And they talk about everything under the sun. I think that might be a little too much.
Yeah. And he's charging religious discrimination. He's suing United. All right, yeah, we need some better news. Let's get to some.
Well, Walmart's the last bad thing we should mention, but this is pretty scary.
They've joined the parade.
In a sign of the times, Walmart, which I believe I read somewhere, is one of the country's largest employers. I think there's 1.6 million people.
Yeah.
They've abandoned all of their DEI efforts.
Yeah. Well, they've joined the Exodus.
Yes.
And they've dropped collaborating with HRC. And they're, this one guy, Starbucks, who went after the ball, has been tremendously successful. And it just shows how paper thin their support for diversity and any kind of affirmative action really was.
This idea, again, in the statement, he said, Walmart said that it is willing to change alongside our associates and customers who represent all of America. But we are also part of America.
I thought so, but who knows? All right. Well, we got to skedaddle.
All right, let's go.
Well, especially because we have this lovely video. This is going to be the lesbian sports segment, starting with hockey stars in Canada coming out. And this is just a lovely video of them talking about it.
This is probably the most myself I've ever been.
C'est bon?
C'est bon.
Their perfect day, a wedding years in the making. Hockey power couple Marie-Philippe Poulin and Laura Stacey, joyous and free, celebrating their love in the spotlight, something they've tried to avoid, no longer able to or wanting to either. This is their story.
Hockey is our everything. It's our sport, it's our career, it's our love, but we're both a lot more than just hockey players. And I think for her specifically, the world knows her as the best hockey player in the world, but they don't know her as the best person in the world as well. And I've been fortunate enough to see that, but now for the world to see that too is pretty special.
Marie-Philippe Poulin, Captain Canada, clutch in the biggest moments. Behind that mask, fierce, stoic, and focused, taking it off now, ready to reveal parts of herself she's kept hidden from the world.
Well, yes, that's... That's probably the most myself I've ever been. Starting something from scratch, being myself, having the community, family and friends, embracing me, embracing us, embracing this new team. I've always been a hockey player. Can get out and all of a sudden people connect with you because guess what? I have a wife and I can be myself. Yes, that's the most myself I've been. And I'm 33, so that's perfect.
Arlo, are you ready, bud? Oh yeah. You haven't got me emotional, Arlo.
Walks with Arlo, simple living, just the way these two would want it. And yet there have been dark, searching moments about all of this, about how the world would receive them.
There was questions, there was, should we do this? Should we not? There was, how do we keep it quiet? How do we not let anybody know? And I think that's also what created this, okay, just hockey players, teammates, hide everything, because we were scared. We didn't know what to expect.
At the rink, they are both as competitive as it gets, a fire that burns deep within both of them.
The way she pushes me, like, as a player, as a person, to me, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me, honestly. And it bothers me that she beats me in every races, but that's part of it.
A married couple on the same pro team, on the same line, still navigating how to talk about the latest wins or losses.
Honestly, the first couple of games, it was like, okay, how do we do this? Do we just talk about it in the car and then when we get home, it's over? And I don't think that worked that well because I know for myself, I can't get over things that quickly. So
we did a lot of detour around the house before we got
we just kept driving.
We got a wedding. They put 29 and 7 in his little handkerchief.
It's pretty remarkable to consider all of this, that Poulin and Stacey are the last of a generation that had to play on all boys teams. Growing up, imagining playing for the Stanley Cup because it's all there was, to now playing in a thriving pro women's league, thinking about what's next on the ice and off the ice as well.
We've talked about it, honestly. Having kids is part of our next project for sure.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting for us too, like two female athletes navigating how to have kids, when to have kids. It is a project. I think it's something we're excited about.
Dreaming of more gold, of being moms. And whether they realize it or not, changing the game for those who follow in their path.
And being able to say we're professional women's hockey player, it's pretty amazing. And seeing little girls wanting to be there one day, to us, it's better than we ever expected, and we don't take it for granted. We're very lucky, and it's pretty amazing to be part of this.
Sweet.
Very nice. Lesbians getting on with it, which is what they always do. Congratulations are also in order for Sam Kerr, the soccer star, and her fiance, Christy Mewis. Gives new meaning to the term soccer mums, doesn't it? They're expecting a baby next year, early next year, I think. Great photo. Look how adorable. And in addition to that, Brittany Griner has celebrated the birth of her baby boy, named Bash. I wonder what was on her mind when she chose that name. And this is with her wife, Sherelle Griner. Congratulations to them as well.
Very sweet. And following up on San Jose State and their volleyball team in California, a judge has rejected the attempt by members of other teams and one teammate of the supposed transgender player to kick her off the team. The judge has upheld her right to play, and they will move on and to try to succeed. I guess we're celebrating that New York has decriminalized adultery. They've repealed that law.
Oh,
seems like it took them a long time to get there.
Yeah.
The City Council of Los Angeles is passing sanctuary laws to try to anticipate all the awful stuff the Trump people are going to do. So they're going to protect immigrants and LGBTQ people. And then I think we move on to people we have.
Lady Java.
Yes.
I learned something about this incredible pioneer. So Lady Java has died at the age of 82 after suffering a stroke. I didn't know about Java. She for 6 decades really has been a pioneer, predated Stonewall. But basically entered into the consciousness when she took on the LAPD, who she sued them because she was prosecuted for, of course, performing in drag when at the time it was against the law, if you can believe that, in 1967.
Yeah, and can we go back to that first picture for a moment? That is her demonstrating. She performed with all sorts of interesting people, including
I read Richard Pryor somewhere.
Richard Pryor, Sammy Davis Jr., Don Rickles, and this is her trying to perform at Red Fox's Club. That's Red telling her,
yep,
don't stir the pot. But she was demonstrating outside that. Now we can continue with the next picture. It's got to stop somewhere, and it won't unless somebody steps forward and takes a stand. I guess that's me. And that's true. She was a revolutionary and a pioneer. And
I mean, ultimately, she did lose that case, but they repealed that law 2 years later. So it was worth it.
Laid the groundwork, and there she is as a grand marshal of the LA Pride Parade much later down the road in 2020.
Pictured with Haley Sahar there, the transgender actress from Pose, who is rumored to be playing her in a upcoming biopic.
Interesting. All right, so that's her. Then we also lost a local activist, Ed Cedarbaum, who was so active for so many years here. That's him on the right with his husband, Howard Cruz, the very famous cartoonist. They were together forever. And Ed became really active as an activist in New York after the death of Julio Rivera in Queens, who was beaten to death just as a gay man out on the streets. And that's Ed speaking on the right there at the microphone. And he ran for state senate. He helped create Queens Pride. He helped get a hate crime bill passed. And then he moved to the Berkshires, he and Howard, who died in recent years, and created Rainbow Seniors. And Ed never stopped working for LGBTQ freedom and self-respect, and was a great guy, a really great, nice guy. And I was very sorry to hear about his death. And then not gay, but a great ally, Senator Fred Harris of Oklahoma, with his wife there, LaDonna Cherokee. Fred Harris in the 70s was an he had come from fairly conservative background, but he became an anti-war activist against the Vietnam War. He was totally about income inequality. He was maybe the Bernie Sanders of his day, but a lot more palatable guy and a real populist. You know, we talk about Trump and his ilk being populist. They're not populists. No. They're creeps. Fred Harris was truly for the people. And when he ran for president, we all got so excited that Fred Harris was going to run and supported him. And I'm happy to see he lived this long. Sorry he didn't get the offices he deserved, but a wonderful ally. And Andy had an encounter with him when he was in college, and Fred Harris came to speak at his college. And Andy asked him about gay stuff, and Fred was just a total ally, totally supportive. I've forgotten the actual quote, but Andy will remind you next week of what Fred Harris said to him.
Now, what about your Earl Holliman?
Oh, I was going to save that for
entertainment
news, I think. Wait a minute. Okay. Is that what I've got? Yes, we'll save that. Okay.
So international.
Yes.
All right.
Strange. In Italy, last year they had more same-sex civil unions than ever, even in the face of Georgia Meloni.
Listen, over 3,000. I actually think it's an attempt to find protection in an otherwise
sure.
hostile government.
Sure. And shameful behavior at the UN Climate Summit in Azerbaijan. There was a proposal for a pro-women's statement killed by Saudi Arabia, Iran, Russia, Egypt, and the Vatican, which we all say is, oh, they're getting so liberal. No, they're
terrible.
not. Nigeria, more gay men chased down the street in Benin City in their boxer shorts, run out of town by a threatening mob. They're really being scapegoats for an economic meltdown in Nigeria.
Yeah, for sure. What about Putin? Of course, he's up to his old tricks. He's now signed into law, basically the equivalent of an executive order prohibiting the adoption of Russian children by any citizens of any countries that permit gender transition. So the US has been struck off that list since 2012, I think. But now
but we're headed right back on. We'll be able to adopt Russian children any minute.
But 15 countries have made this new list, including Australia, many countries in Europe, Canada, and Argentina.
Well, here's the really great news. In Kuala Lumpur, the High Court has said Swatch rainbow watches are not illegal. So you have to return 172 rainbow Swatch watches. That is because you took them with no search warrant.
They raided all these malls in Malaysia and confiscated about 172 of them, only worth a few thousand, but still.
And you brought us pictures of Rio Pride. I was glad you brought that to our attention because it's going
beautiful.
strong.
Thousands gathered on Copacabana Beach on Sunday with a very intersectionally themed pride. This one with the message of climate change, because, of course, Brazil in the last year has had some devastating climate events. So basically the theory that we will not have justice until we have environmental justice, racial justice, social justice, gender equality, and sexual diversity.
Now, this is not the annual carnival. This is Rio Pride, which is something separate. I was happy to be reminded that Bolsonaro, the former dictator of Brazil, is being prosecuted for trying to overturn his election loss. In the United States, Trump has escaped, but in Brazil, Bolsonaro is being prosecuted. Very happy about that.
Strange times.
Now, Andy is involved with and wants us to make note of this documentary that is opening here in New York next week, Forgetting the Many, the Royal Pardon of Alan Turing, opening at the Cinema Village, playing for a week there. This is really about how, yes, Alan Turing was pardoned for his homosexuality, which he'd been, prosecuted for and forced to undergo castration, chemical castration, and eventually leading to his death. But there are tens of thousands of more who were prosecuted and have not been pardoned and are suffering from their persecution. So that Forgetting the Many, the Royal Pardon of Alan Turing. There's a panel discussion that first night, the 6th, which I think Andy is
I believe he'll
moderating.
be there. Yeah, he's
yeah. And in China, a trans woman who was forced into electroshock therapy has been awarded $8,300.
Terrible. So also, China adjacent, I suppose, Hong Kong, the top court there has backed housing rights for gay couples, basically saying there shouldn't be any difference. 5 judges rejected the government's belief that there's a lot of confusion about same-sex couples and opposite-sex couples being not comparable in terms of their rights to public housing. So this is good.
So there's still some liberals in Hong Kong.
There's still some, apparently their constitution, the city has its own constitution, which is slightly different to the Chinese constitution.
I'm sure China's trying to wipe that out.
Probably.
And there's a new Israeli film that played at an Estonia film festival called Pink Lady. It's about gay men in Orthodox life in Israel, told from a wife's point of view. But the film won Best Director at the film festival. All right, AIDS news. This Sunday, December 1st, World AIDS Day. The White House on December 5th is holding a symposium on quality of life for people with HIV. Here in New York on December 1st and 2nd, there will be events at the New York City AIDS Memorial, a candlelight march, a reading of the names of people who died of HIV. The Whitney Museum is noting the Day Without Art traditionally, and the New York City Department of Health on December 4th is doing various events at the Brooklyn Central Library.
And if you don't live near any of these places, just log on to worldaidsday.org and you can actually request 100 red ribbons be sent to you for free. And you can sell them and make money and donate it.
I would suggest that you look for events in your area connected to World AIDS Day.
Nice. I think it's nice.
Okay.
Call me sentimental and old-fashioned.
I won't call you anything like that, but I will move on. And in Cincinnati, the city council voted 9-0 to give $500,000 to trans youth care for 2 years.
Nice.
To prevent suicide, support mental health. This was proposed by a council member with a trans child and a gay council member. That's AIDS and health news. And in entertainment news, yes. We mourn the death of Earl Holliman at 96. Who knew he was gay? Well, the Advocate evidently wrote about it in 2015, but it must have gone right over my head. But he was a great journeyman actor. He leaves a husband. He was in the first Twilight Zone TV show. I have assembled a list of a few of his credits where he played with gay people. He was in Giant with Rock Hudson and James Dean. He was in The Thornbirds with Richard Chamberlain. He was in The Rainmaker with Katharine Hepburn. But most famously, and the thing he said really created his career, was his years on TV with policewoman Angie Dickinson. Anytime I have a chance to show Angie, I'm taking it. So they were quite a team.
That's a cute team, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, those were the days.
Particularly the woman on the right. He did a lot of theater, and he appeared in a couple of Tennessee Williams plays in California on a local playhouse. Tennessee Williams came to see it 11 times. And this is Earl Holliman in the middle with Jesse and Robert, hairdressers to the stars, who were very involved in the playhouse that Earl was running. So
the good old gay days.
He was not hiding. He was also a big animal rights activist.
That was lovely to read, wasn't it? He worked with Dian Fossey, trying to save the gorillas in the mist, which I found very touching.
And he was a singer. He put out albums. He leaves his husband, Craig Curtis. And there's Craig. So a little under the radar, but evidently a great guy, and happy he had a long life, and envy him his years with Angie.
Also under the radar, we had singer Khalid come out on Twitter after, well, he was actually outed on X, and then he responded and basically had to put his own tweet up there and with a rainbow flag and an exclamation marks, and he says, "There you all go. Next topic, please." LOL.
I got outed, and the world still continues to turn. I am not ashamed of my sexuality. He has 6 million followers on Instagram.
Grammy nominated, 26 years of age.
All right, tell us about the movie Queer with Daniel Craig.
Well, look, I didn't come out of this film clicking my heels together saying I'm so glad to be gay. It's
no, that's the next film.
That's right. But this does come from the mind of William S. Burroughs, as you would know. So it is very trippy. It is very twisted. It's thoroughly excellent, incredibly well done. The performances by Daniel Craig and Drew Starkey here as the young, ambivalent, and emotionally unavailable love object of the character William Lee, who is a sort of surrogate for William Burroughs. Look, this is it's a terrific movie, directed by Luca Guadagnino, with the screenplay by Justin Kritzkis, who is a very promising screenwriter, only 34 years of age. Do go see it, but you'll feel like having a good stiff drink afterwards. We had to go and have a martini afterwards. That's how we felt. So.
Well, let's see, slightly out of order. Let's see what Andy left us a little review of Death Becomes Her on Broadway now, based on the Meryl Streep movie. So based on it that Megan Hilty, who stars in the Broadway production, took Meryl Streep's bio and used it in the playbill.
Ooh.
Very funny.
That's hilarious.
But here's Andy on Death Becomes Her.
So there's a new musical about murderous, narcissistic vulgarians. No, it's not about the new Trump administration. It's Death Becomes Her, the musical comedy based on that wacky 1992 film starring Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn, and Bruce Willis. And despite its excesses, or maybe because of them, it's funny and lively, including a lot of gay humor, low and lower. Megan Hilty and Jennifer Simard are the aging women searching for the fountain of youth from Viola, played by singer Michelle Williams, who was a big draw for the audience. And out Christopher Sieber plays the man in and out of their lives. They're all firing on all cylinders. It's a fun night out, directed and choreographed by Christopher Gattelli at the Lunt Fontaine Theater.
Thank you, Andy. He'll be back next week telling us about any theater he's seen in London.
I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I don't think either of us has seen the Wicked movie.
No, I just went to the drag-fueled album, the soundtrack release at Hardware Bar NYC, where basically Jan Sport and Jackie Cox, who are two beloved drag queens, played Elphaba and Glinda and had us all in stitches. But boy, the clips I've seen look terrific, and the music is fantastic. The great news about this is it has broken many box office records.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally eclipsed Gladiator 2, which opened with 55 million. I think Wicked is somewhere like 113 million. Directed by John M. Chu, who also directed Into the Heights, which is, interesting parallel.
It's evidently very, very gay, and it includes people in the cast like Bowen Yang, Jonathan Bailey, Bronwyn James. And they're not shying away from describing this as a sort of quasi-gay movie. They're sort of playing up the relationship between Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, who is out bisexual, as sort of quasi-romantic, on and off. And that the themes really are about affirming like queer youth, and it's tremendously successful right out of the gate.
Absolutely. Well, the metaphor of you have to be your true self and your authentic self is something that's always resonated with us. So, it's the subtext is there apparently, if you want to read it.
Well, I know the play it's still on Broadway.
I believe so. The musical, it must be the
longest, one of the longest running ever.
I think Chicago has that.
I managed to avoid it all these years, but the movie sounds much better.
The movie looks absolutely terrific. The special effects look fantastic. Of course, the soundtrack has been completely. I heard about one of the tracks is 12 minutes long. So they haven't dumbed it down for the screen, which is
Dumbed it down. It's they made it into 2 parts.
Yes,
This is only half of it we're seeing.
There's the second part next year.
But one of the controversies is, of course, the audience singing along with the movie.
Oh, I didn't think of that. I'm going to see it the day after Thanksgiving, and I didn't think about that because I don't love that. So
Go at 10 a.m. There won't be any of that.
Yeah, all right. Well,
as Andy would say, it's the loss of the superego. It's people have just they're just unconscious of anybody else but themselves, so they sing along.
What about Oh Mary? Congratulations are in order.
Fantastic.
One of the benefits of having the world go to hell is that gay art always seems to improve and become commercially successful. This run, which was already extended twice when it was on off-Broadway, has now been extended at the Lyceum Theatre until January the 19th. This is a record-breaking show. It's the first, it's recouped all of its money.
Yes, the first this year on
Yes.
Broadway to recoup its entire investment, which makes it, I guess, the biggest hit at the moment.
Yeah.
We have been shilling for this show for a year.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I've seen it twice.
Yeah,
I loved
yeah.
every bit of it.
It's broken a 121-year history at the Lyceum as the most the top grossing show of all.
It's really silly.
Yeah.
It's not serious at all, but it is very, very funny.
What do you make of the disconnect between what is happening now politically and the fact that Cola Scola is non-binary and what's her name, Bianca Lee is a trans actress, and you've got straight people flocking to see this?
Well, in New York, that's not unusual, but word is out that it's hilarious and the hit of the year, so everyone wants to go see it. Don't forget the election was very, very close in the final vote.
Right.
So half the country has lost their minds and half the country is still hanging in there. Just an exaggeration, of course. But there are plenty of people around who still want to see this, who still have progressive values, who want things to be different. So buckle up. It's going to be tough, but we're going to get through this. Now, I've also finally watched Will and Harper, the Will Ferrell documentary about him driving across country with his trans, very close friend, Harper, who was a writer on Saturday Night Live. That's where they met. And then sometime after that, Harper informed Will Ferrell that he was coming out, had transitioned. And so they decided to do a cross-country road trip. These things can be predictable. This, I thought, had a little more, and I enjoyed watching it. I thought it was worth watching. There are, of course, fun, good parts and scary, not so fun parts. But it was very human, and it was nuanced and deep. And so I would recommend, if you haven't seen it yet on Netflix, I think it's worth taking an hour and a half of your time to watch that. And then the other big hit that's out suddenly is this new movie, Sabbath Queen, by Sandy Dubowski, who made Trembling Before God some years ago. Sandy spent 21 years following this guy who started out, he comes from a 38 generation family of rabbis.
Wow.
He was he did drag, he did all sorts of things, but he has become a rabbi. It's playing in New York now. It opens in LA next week, Sabbath Queen. So that's it. Thank you, Maren, for being here.
You're welcome. And I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Yes. From the Wild Turkey Golf Course. And you'll be here next week with Andy. Goodbye.